Ladies and gentlemen, Barack Obama just f***ed up. And old Barry, Mr. Kenya himself, seen here, exiting another one of his super secret meetings and looking like he's just been kicked out of the doghouse after Michelle Obama caught him cheating on stage at a rally.
Oh, I love you, but hold on. I heard you, girl. Just settle down. I'm here to talk to everybody, not just you. I mean, you look cute, but I am married. Michelle's fine too.
But hey, folks, check this out. Just a quick heads up on something that's wild. Barack Obama's back in London again. Now, mind you, this is his third super secret trip there in just 2 months. No red carpet, no headlines, just whispers of closed door huddles with UK PM Keir Starmer. And I've been seeing more and more posts popping up lately about former presidents, like this one here that says, reports now show Joe Biden didn't profit a single cent from the presidency. He got his salary, no grift, no bribe, no deals, just decency. But that's just funny. The irony of preaching about decency while the Biden family treated the Oval Office like a VIP lounge for foreign cash to pass through, where flashing the name Biden was your backstage pass to influence deals and millions in laundered goodwill. And not to toot any horns, but did this person forget Trump donated his entire $400,000 presidential salary to federal agencies like the National Park Service, HHS, and DHS, walking away with nothing but a record of service? Granted, it was only one term as president, but Biden pocketed every cent of his paycheck and let the family hustle the rest through Hunter, whose Burisma board seat alone netted over $1.4 million from Ukrainian oligarchs, desperate for a whisper in Joe's ear, complete with speakerphone cameos at dinners and direct monthly payouts to the Biden clan. Then came China and some $3.8 million from the Clean Energy Finance Corporation, CEFC Energy, funneled through shell companies, landing $1.3 million across Hunter, James, Haley, and even an unnamed Biden in a 3-month spree for services rendered. I mean, it's still very unclear what services those were, but the timing just screamed access peddling to anybody with half a brain cell. And old Hunter Biden's art career? Yeah, let's be honest here, folks. A masterclass, and there's that term again, decency. Hunter can be considered a scholar in laundering decency into dollars, and after a few quick snorts and getting high on that booger sugar, Hunter's abstract scribbles, at best, a student of the arts, likely trained by Amber Heard, reportedly smeared with his own fecal matter and in fits of self-destruction, fetched up to $500,000 a pop. $500,000 from anonymous buyers, but ironically, mostly Democratic donors who suddenly scored White House gigs, like Elizabeth Naftali snagging 2 pieces for $94,000 and a presidential commission months later. Total haul, $1.5 million across 27 sales, averaging $54,000 each, with friend Kevin Morris alone dropping $875,000 on 11. Again, hypocrisy isn't a strong enough word here, folks, but the White House swore up and down it was all above board, with galleries hiding buyer names to dodge ethics red flags. But let's be real. Who drops $500,000 on poop paintings from a political Nepo baby unless they're buying more than the canvas? Maybe a quiet chat, a favor, or just the thrill of the brand? Or is it some weird child trafficking scheme? But I can tell you this, it's not art, but it's the perfect grift, anonymous enough to deny, pricey enough to impress. That's your democratic decency, folks. A playbook of backroom wires, phone taps, and bank transfers, family cutouts, and scandals on repeat. Menendez stacking gold bars for Egypt's bribes. Cuella indicting over Azerbaijan's envelopes. Clinton's intern escapades morphing into foundation slush funds, and Obama's Solyndra green energy black hole. But yeah, imply what you want as Trump served for free and still does, while the Bidens turn public service into a family ATM. If that's decency, then my dictionary must be broken. But like I was saying, most ex-presidents kick back, write books, play golf, but not Barry. And it just seems after Trump crushed his legacy in 2017, Obama set up a straight up war room in DC, blocks from the White House, called it open season on his successor, and boom, all of a sudden, Russiagate, endless scandals, the works. It was a full court press to kneecap Trump. Tulsi Gabbard just straight up called him out. Obama allegedly led a treasonous coup against the guy who beat him, a vendetta worse than Letitia James's. But can anyone say shadow president much? I mean, thank God we've got one president right now. And that one president is Donald J. Trump, and not some ex-DC insider pulling strings from his basement. But over across the pond, Starmer is a labor guy. So Obama's basically his fake fairy godfather. And they've been chatting frequently for years, but a lot more often recently, it seems. And Obama even mentored him on ditching the stiff suits vibe for feel-good storytelling to win votes. Now, I'm not so sure how much Obama knows about feel-good stories to win votes. I mean, Kamala didn't win. In fact, she lost miserably across every single swing state. And I know for one, as a black man, she never had my vote.
We were told that if you were black, you had to vote for Kamala Harris and not to be fooled and voted for Trump. That's what Obama said. Now he's in Virginia saying, don't be fooled and vote for a black woman over a white woman. So what is it, Barack?
Our country and our politics are in a pretty dark place right now. It's hard to know where to start because every day this White House offers up a fresh batch of lawlessness and recklessness and mean-spiritedness and just plain craziness.
Some ways I'm happy because he's relegating race and he's voting apparently on the person who's the most left wing, regardless of list. That's admirable, but I'm not sure that it's consistent.
So here we are. Here we are, days away from this historic election.
We stand for the principles upon which our nation was founded. We believe in the Constitution of the United States. We believe in the power of the vote. And we are prepared, when necessary, to fight fire with fire.
And I think he doesn't like, his view of black conservatives is they haven't sufficiently appreciated all the wonderful things that white liberals and black professional DEI people have done for them. And therefore they owe them.
We don't owe them shit. And I was actually talking about this with my mom today about how one of the biggest Democrats right now in sports and social media, Stephen A. Smith, has had his name included in conversations about getting votes and the Dems party back on track. And I think this is a terrible idea and very unlikely considering his political background and history, not to mention the massive paychecks that he gets from ESPN and Disney and others. But Stephen A., I mean, stepping in as almost like a Susie Wiles of the left instead of Obama could help the Democrats campaign better. But it would only work if the Dems wanted to actually improve and be better. But we all know that they don't. Their only focus is hating Trump and trying to over America as much and as often as possible in ways that bring in more illegals and put more money in their own pockets. But with where we are right now, with Trump back in the Oval Office, these secret Obama in London hush-hush meets scream coordination, maybe anti-Trump ops. Is it a globalist playbook? London's a deep state hotspot. And remember how big events pop off after Obama's visits? I mean, we could easily peel back the onion on a decade of smears, Russia hoax, and 81 million Biden votes fairy tale, and Obama's the ghost you just never see. Well, until now. Arrogant as hell, too. Cross him, get mocked into oblivion, but I just wonder how long he thinks he can remain protected like royalty by the Dems. You all see him. What do you think? Does this look like an innocent vacation? Oh, please. And if it was golf, it'd be on the gram or posted on X. You know, this is peak Obama thinking he's too cool for accountability, bouncing around out here in his justice-proof bubble while the media tries to bury it faster than another bad poll. That was actually kind of funny because I came across this post today that showed how Rachel Maddow on MSNBC this time last year was talking about how Ann Selzer had Kamala up 3 in Iowa, only to find out that that poll was real bad. And she ended up losing by 13. And whatever they're plotting with Starmer and bomb Obama, you can bet it's aimed at our guy. But stick with me here, folks. Trump's exposing the gang. News dropping soon. Subscribe and stay locked in if you haven't already. And you like my videos because it really does help out a lot.
So here we are. Here we are. Days away from this historic election. Days away from sending a message. And a year from now, what this is all about is Democrats getting back on our toes, not our heels, getting our mojo back. I mean, I don't know what happened to us last few months. You know, everybody all, hand wringing and all this. But we're back. The biggest story, you know it. You all know this. I cannot wait for November 5th, November 6th, and all the punditry. Historic victories all across the United States of America. Proposition 50 winning by double digits. A new governor in New Jersey, a new governor in Virginia. Democrats back, united, standing tall and firm for health care. Standing tall to our diverse communities, standing tall for the founding fathers. That's what this election is all about. So I just want to thank you. I mean this, just thank you. I'll end as I began. Thank you for giving a damn.
Newsom sat up there all that time, flapping his gums, and at the end of the day, he said absolutely nothing. Well, almost nothing. I mean, there is some truth in him and the Democrats not giving a damn.
Let me tell you about an Arizonan. Let me tell you a story about a guy named Brent from Mesa.
And we're now shifting gears away from Obama specifically, but moving on over to healthcare, or the affordable healthcare, lack thereof, for lack of better words, and Obamacare. Senator Kelly says, let me tell you a story about a guy named Brent from Mesa. This guy worked in public safety for 34 years. He gets his health care from the ACA. He pays $339 a month. That's going to go up $900 to over $1,100 a month, and he can't afford it. And this guy has an autoimmune disease. This isn't fair to him and the millions of Americans like him.
This guy worked in public safety for 34 years. He left that job. Now he's a substitute teacher. He gets his health care from the Affordable Care Act, from the exchange. He pays $339 a month. That's going to go up by $900. He'll be paying over $1,100 a month for him and his wife. He can't afford it. This guy has an autoimmune disease. He's got lupus. This isn't fair to him, and the millions of Americans like him, through no fault of their own, are now facing this huge spike in the costs of their health care.
But what I think he fails to realize is just how Americans really feel about ACA and Obamacare. Because a quick scroll down into the comments and some quick reads really deliver the truth and the pulse right now. I mean, these are real people and real thoughts, emotions and opinions, not just some liberal talking points from the left repeated by Democrats every chance they get in front of a camera and fed live through TV screens and streaming platforms by the lamestream media. Laura left a comment on his video, and she had her own story to tell and said, "Let me tell you about a gal named Laura who had great insurance until the ACA. After it was enacted, her premiums increased and her insurance never did another single thing for her because she never met her deductible. The ACA ruined insurance." And this one here from a different mark. And because Obamacare is so bad, it has to be subsidized. Obamacare should be repealed immediately, he says, and instead let free markets compete for business rather than shifting all of the costs to taxpayers while insurance companies make record profits. It's a scam. Here's another that says, if one can believe the ACA is a mechanism to pay big pharma and insurance companies so they'll in turn pay Democrat politicians, it's not hard to believe they put the innocents in the middle to use at just this moment in time, trotting out the victims of premium hikes, the sob stories, all planned. This entire thing is a grift for Democrats' pockets. And I would agree. Thinking WTH or thinking what the hell, Nan wonders why, posted this saying, "So solve the problem with the ACA that's causing the prices to be so insane, because continuing to throw supplements at a broken system is not the answer. The supplements were enacted at about 5 years ago. So why didn't they address the problem during those 5 years?" And that's a damn good question. And go back and watch last night's video, and you may begin to understand why those problems from Obama years ago are still hurting the American people today. Let me tell you a story about Brian Lester. And he left this comment and told me Chapter helped him and he will be getting a savings of over $1,000 a year. Very easy and nice people. Thank God for good people. Amen. And if you've been following my take on the ACA, how it's rigged to funnel cash to big pharma and insurers while they line Democrat pockets with kickbacks, then yeah, I get why the sob stories of premium spikes feel like just more scripted theater from the progressive left. It's all part of the grift, putting everyday folks like me, like you, like us, in the crosshairs. And we're right to call it out in the comments, just like some of the ones we've read. Why slap band-aids like supplements on a hemorrhaging system when they could have fixed the root rot in the Obama era, right? But here's the real truth. We don't have to just rant about the broken machine. We can work around it, starting with your Medicare coverage. And that's where my video sponsor Chapter comes in. They're the free lifeline hooking up all of my subscribers because nobody should get gouged by this mess. And we're smack dab in the middle of AEP, and it runs through December 7 this year. It's a time when you can switch up your Medicare Advantage, Part D, or original Medicare plans for 2026 without penalties. It should be very empowering for seniors, except it's open season for shady brokers who just want to take advantage. And I've heard so many horror stories about how most insurance brokers and agents are commission chasers, plain and simple. They get paid big bucks, sometimes hundreds per sign up, from insurers to steer you into high margin plans that pad their wallets rather than working to help protect yours. We're talking kickbacks, bonuses, and steering folks, sadly, toward Medicare Advantage plans that look shiny on paper, but leave you with narrow doctor networks, surprise denials, or premiums that balloon later. I've seen the horror stories and know some of you have lived through them personally. Good people, folks just like you or someone you know, get sweet talked into zero premium deals that ghost their preferred doctors or jack up out-of-pocket costs for their meds, or worse, educational seminars that flip into hard sell pitches, violating CMS rules, but slipping through because enforcement's, well, let's just face it, folks, it's a joke. It's the ACA grift in microcosm, profit over people with you footing the bill. So what's the bottom line? Well, besides the fact that these brokers aren't working for you, they're sales reps for the machine, boosting enrollments to hit quotas and to cash checks from the same corps jacking up your rates. So here's the fix. Trust me, folks, Chapter, unbiased, free, and actually on your team. Call Chapter to cut through this BS for you. These aren't your typical brokers. Chapter's licensed advisors are full-time employees, not commission hounds, and they get zero kickbacks from insurers, period. They're the same ones that I trust to handle my own mother's Medicare questions and coverage, and they truly provide unbiased advice. They'll shop around over 24,000 Medicare options nationwide, factoring in your providers, prescriptions, and priorities, their 3 Ps method, to land the plan that saves you cash and covers what you actually need, even if it doesn't pay them to do it. Because Chapter just wants to make sure everyone's taken care of and not taken advantage of. And get this, it's 100% free. It's 100% free for you. No hidden fees, no upsell pressure. They handle the enrollment, follow-ups, and even OTC credits via their app. Take Brian Lester's story. He dropped a comment after Chapter sorted his setup, saved over $1,000 a year, no hassle, just straight up nice folks making it painless. And thank God for good people. Amen. That's the vibe. In a system built to screw you over, Chapter's here to help make sure that doesn't happen. A true rare win. Super tech smart, human beings with real hearts, and zero agenda beyond getting you right. Plus, they all speak English and aren't connected through call centers from some far-off imaginary remote place in another country. Don't get played. Act now. And you know me. I do my homework and research and bring you the real, raw, and honest facts. AEP ends soon, and spots fill up fast with the rush. So don't delay and call them now. Don't end up in a bad place next year that could lock you into another year of overpriced regret. Hit up Chapter today at 270-467-2426. They're standing by to run your numbers and lock in those savings for all of my subscribers. Just tell them Kevin sent you. This is your edge. Free, fiduciary level help to flip the script on the grifters. Call now and let's stick it to the machine together. Oh, and make sure you come back here for my next video and drop your wins and whatever savings you discover in the comments once you're all set. On average, $1,100, but sometimes more and sometimes less. But all savings is good savings, right?
A lot of people are not. 42 million people are going to lose their food stamps. Their EBT card, which is what they use for it, is going to show 0 on it. And what I've been reading is that most of these people, they kind of coast on the last 2 weeks. It really doesn't cover the whole month. So the last 2 weeks are kind of rough anyway until you get that new, and it's not going to be on the card. What is your opinion on this as a member of Congress?
My opinion is I believe we should fund the government. I voted on September 18th to fund it.
Couldn't we do this without funding the government? Isn't there an emergency fund that they just won't let be used?
Well, there was a judge that ruled today that that money should be used. My understanding is that's $5 billion, but it's not quite enough to fund for a full month, which is $8 to $9 billion. The best solution, let me tell you, Bill, The best solution is for the Democrats and the Republicans in the Senate to stop playing games. The Democrats can vote and they can fund the government just like that, but the Republicans in the Senate, they can use the nuclear option, override the filibuster, and they can fund the government. Here's my problem is the American people are being used like a piñata in this situation, and I think it's completely wrong. I think that they should just do it and fund the government.
Yeah, there were two judges that ruled today that the administration had said that those emergency funds were not available to them. And they said, yes, they can be available to you, make them available. But as the Congresswoman said, it's not the full amount. It's only going to be a certain amount of time. So there's a bit of time being bought here. But the political game of chicken is kind of infuriating. And you look at the latest polls, 15% of people approve of Congress. And this is what, 15%? And this is sort of stuff. Why? Because you have people debating these things and what they're doing. And I saw this, someone saying this today, Debbie Wasserman Schultz. You know, they're getting poll numbers on this. How is it polling? How are we looking good in this? The Republicans are looking bad at this. We're looking good. They're playing chicken with 42 million people who didn't. We can talk about whether the astonishing figure that 42 million people in a country that has, 4.5% unemployment and is an incredibly wealthy country. That's an enormous number of people. But as a separate issue, if you separate that and say, are we using these people as political pawns? And someone's going to have to say, okay, let's go. You can blame it on Democrats and Republicans. I blame them both, not in equal measure. But the fact that this is what we're debating about, it is just those extensions of the Obamacare subsidies, and that is what we're playing chicken with. And there's something really disgusting about it. And people in Congress at 15% seems too high.
Looking at Obamacare, it was passed in 2010. It went into place in 2014, and premiums have skyrocketed ever since. It was good for some that couldn't afford health insurance or couldn't get health insurance. But for the middle class, small business owners, people that had to buy their own insurance, it has crushed them. And so I've been demanding
Obamacare has crushed them? Obamacare is what's hurt them?
Oh, yeah. I'll tell you, for example, when Obamacare went into place, it took my own family of five health insurance policy from $800 a month to over $2,400 a month, more than our mortgage payment. And that's what so many people have experienced over all these years. But here's the big problem, is it's about to skyrocket in January of 2025. Here's why I'm angry. The Democrats passed Obamacare, but yet the Republicans have never done anything to correct the problems that exist with it. And I blame my own party. That's absolutely wrong. And I don't think it's an easy thing to fix. However, it's something that we should have a plan for. And Mike Johnson, for a month now, cannot give me a single policy idea. And I'm angry about that.
Is this your understanding of Obamacare, that
I have to first start by saying I didn't suspect that I would come on and say I agree with Congressman Marjorie Taylor Greene. But I do on that. I do on this issue because,
I believe Marjorie misspoke there and meant January 2026. But you all get the gist of this conversation and discussion. But do you hear that, Senator? The issues are hurting all families, Mark Kelly. And in a recent appearance on Real Time with Bill Maher, Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, a Republican out of Georgia, delivered a candid, no-holds-barred critique of government dysfunction, healthcare policy failures, and partisan gridlock, earning a standing ovation from the audience. Bill Maher kicked off the discussion by pressing Greene on the immediate fallout from the ongoing government shutdown, spotlighting a dire statistic. 42 million Americans on food stamps, or SNAP benefits, are at risk of losing access today due to lapsed funding. MTG immediately dives right in. She doesn't flinch, making sure to emphasize her vote on September 18th to fully fund the government and avoid this crisis, but pointed the finger at Senate Democrats and Republicans for playing games and stonewalling a clean continuing resolution, or CR. She dismissed Maher's suggestion of tapping a $5 billion emergency fund as a Band-Aid insufficient for the $8 to $9 billion needed for a full month, and laid bare the human cost. And if I could, for just a moment, point out a quick clarification about that emergency fund point. But Marjorie Greene nailed why Maher's $5 billion contingency idea falls flat. It's a partial patch for SNAP's $8 to $9 billion monthly need, but federal law, the Anti-Deficiency Act, ties the Trump administration's hands on unapproved spends. Trump has already addressed this chaos to food and pantry staples just the other night on the 31st on Halloween and posted this to Truth Social. And he said, "Our government lawyers do not think we have the legal authority to pay SNAP with certain monies we have available. And now 2 courts have issued conflicting opinions on what we can and cannot do. One Rhode Island judge mandates full use. A Massachusetts one allows only partial per conflicting rulings from Judges McConnell and Talwani." This is judicial whiplash, and not just meddling, but overreach, as these Obama and Biden appointed judges love to do, but moreover, straight up constitutional overreach clashing with Article 1, Congress's spending power, and Article 2, the president's execution role. President Trump's pushing filibuster nuke for shutdown votes to sidestep Senate games, and these woke judges playing pretend president and trying to unlawfully dictate fiscal moves. There's even a potential disruption in House Democrats' paychecks to help Senate Democrats off their hill that they're choosing to die on
today. Tony, I want to ask you about this. House members were told their paychecks would be delayed until Congress passes a new funding bill. So does this ramp up the pressure on lawmakers not getting paid themselves?
Sure. I mean, that means there's probably some frustrated staffers in these lawmakers' offices, but it's unclear if that would be enough to move these lawmakers. They've been talking about this during press conferences, Democrats and Republicans separately, again, pointing the blame at each other, but no movement yet on moving forward a full continuing resolution. What we have seen, as I just said, there are these standalone bills, including measures that would fund or return funding for federal workers. Democrats want to include all federal employees, including those who are furloughed. Republicans, including Senator Ron Johnson, who's putting forth a bill for what he's calling expected workers, so those forced to work and not those who are furloughed. We know Chris Van Hollen, the Democratic senator, has been working with Senator Johnson behind the scenes. And then concurrently, we had some House Democrats and Republicans working together as part of the problem-solving caucus to talk to senators. It's been largely rank-and-file members looking at these bipartisan solutions, but no clear consensus yet from leadership on whether or not a solution is in sight, Reed.
The American people are being used like a piñata and are getting beat up in this situation. And I know it's a vivid metaphor for how families from rural Georgia to urban centers and cities are battered by Democrats and they're infighting right now, with kids going hungry while career politicians try and score points or try and save face, because we know Schumer is the one leading everyone to the slaughter. And not to get too sidetracked here, but just like we talked about on my previous upload and the video you all watched last night or earlier this morning, but why hasn't Chuck Schumer endorsed socialism and Zohran Mamdani?
Why do you think Chuck Schumer has not endorsed Zohran Mamdani?
I really don't know. It makes no sense. We as Democrats have always believed that in an election, we support our party's nominee. Schumer has pressured other Democrats to do just that, and he should be following his own advice.
Do you think religion plays a role at all?
Well, the tsunami of the anti-Muslim attacks that we are seeing is deeply concerning, and I would hope that the Democratic leader in the Senate would recognize that and would offer support not just to Mamdani, but the million Muslims who live in New York City and the millions who live in New York and in America.
I know why, and it makes perfect sense. But no one on the left or any of these puppets paid for by the lamestream have the balls to admit it live on camera. And it comes down to two things. The first you just heard, and the other is the infighting in AOC challenging Chucky. But we'll do a deep dive into that soon with its own video. But I don't want to wander too far off course here, and let's get back on track with our Obamacare conversation, where MTG unleashed a personal gut punch as a guest on Bill Maher's show. She argued that while the law helped some uninsured folks, it devastated the middle class and small businesses by driving up premiums through mandates and subsidies skewed toward the poorest. And Bill Maher was visibly stunned by her response, asking, somewhat in disbelief, and so you mean Obamacare has crushed them? Obamacare is what's hurt them? To which Green fired back with raw testimony from her own life. Her family's health insurance for 5 jumped from $800 a month to over $2,400, more than their mortgage. And this just illustrates how everyday Americans got squeezed while Democrat elites played debate.
We have to work together. That's how it works. Some terms we're in the majority, sometimes we're in the minority. You know, that's why we all work together. That's the way democracy is.
Fetterman is right. We have to work together. And as you saw earlier, Marjorie even blasted her own Republican Party for 14 years of inaction and how Democrats passed Obamacare, yet Republicans have never done anything to correct the problems that exist with it. I blame my own party, she says, pointing out House Speaker Mike Johnson for offering 0 policy ideas in a month. Now, she seems like she's just venting her fury and says, here's why I'm angry. We should have a plan. Sending the entire crowd into applause and everyone erupting after having witnessed a rare moment of cross-aisle resonance on real time, highlighting Green's frustration with a broken system that prioritizes power plays over fixes. Likely a frustration that's felt by so many more Americans than not. Families being used like pawns or a piñata hit harder when you layer in the brutal revelations from Dr. Mehmet Oz, the Trump administration's Health and Human Services secretary.
A major reason given by the Democratic Party for the government shutdown is the passionate desire to get rid of the one big beautiful bill that was just signed into law. But that law allows us to ensure that illegal immigrants are not having their health care paid for by the federal government. Turns out, despite allegations that that's not true, it is 100% a truthful statement to say that we're spending money from Washington to care for illegal immigrants around the country. How do I know that? We started investigating the first few states that we thought would be most likely to have done this. And it turns out just in the last few months, it's already $1 billion plus of money that's been spent in states that think that they should provide health care to illegal immigrants. What that means is that if you're a taxpayer in Texas or Florida, your tax dollars could have been used to fund the care of illegal immigrants in California. That's not the law anymore. So we have stopped it. We are clawing back that money. We've already gotten hundreds of millions of dollars back, which again, it proves that these states realized that they were guilty because they wouldn't give us the money back otherwise. So that bill, the one big beautiful bill, is absolutely essential to keep the financial integrity of the system in place, to make sure our vulnerable are protected. It cannot be repealed, and that's why the shutdown needs to end.
And in a bombshell audit report, Oz exposed how over $1 billion in federal taxpayer dollars meant for vulnerable American citizens were illegally funneled to cover Medicaid for illegal immigrants in violation of federal law. This isn't abstract policy wonkery, it's a direct betrayal of the families Green has described, whose food stamps are now cut off amid a shutdown partly triggered by Democrats' refusal to negotiate unless the administration repeals the working family tax cuts, a Trump-era law tightening restrictions on federal health funds for non-citizens. All the while, furthermore, hypocrisy is born out of states like Rhode Island and cities like Boston, where judges have ordered President Trump to prevent irreparable harm to vulnerable families and local economies, as delayed benefits could lead to hunger, increased food bank strain, and economic ripple effects. But the president has already pointed out the challenges he faces. For example, technical hurdles and prorating payments and the insufficiency of reserves for full coverage. Oh, and not to mention these judges' orders are in fact illegal, basically, as these two Obama-appointed activist judges, one in Boston, Indira Talwani, and one in Rhode Island, John J. McConnell, just issued orders forcing the Trump administration to cough up SNAP benefits for November using contingency funds meant for actual emergencies like hurricanes, not Democrats throwing political temper tantrums. They want full payments by Monday, tomorrow, or partial by Wednesday, even though the USDA warned this is operationally insane and could take weeks, leaving families in limbo anyway. President Trump, God bless him, fired back on social media looking for answers, and he's asking the courts to clarify. He's asking the courts for clarity on how to legally fund this because his lawyers say it's a no-go under the Anti-Deficiency Act. But here's the real kicker. Straight from the heart of a lifelong Republican who's had enough of the left's games. This whole mess is a masterclass in liberal hypocrisy, judicial overreach, and their favorite fallacy, pretending to care about the little guy while weaponizing the system against strong conservative leadership. First, it's the left and the shutdown. Then it's the radical Dems and the blame game, but it's not Trump to blame. First off, this isn't Trump's shutdown. It's Schumer's and the socialist squads. And they voted 14 times to keep the government closed, blocking pay for our brave troops, air traffic controllers, and yes, even SNAP families, all because they won't pass a clean bill without stuffing it with their $1.5 trillion wish list for free healthcare for illegals, green news scam pork, and endless amnesty.
25% of Haitian immigrants are on SNAP. 45% of Afghani immigrants are on SNAP. 52% of Senegalese immigrants are on SNAP. Yeah. We are redistributing the wealth away from productive Americans to foreigners and subsidizing their way of life. And that is unacceptable. And I'll tell you the truth, Carl. In 2024, there was a big tent coalition because of President Trump that voted away mass migration from the southern border. But in 2026, there's going to be an even bigger tent that says any type of immigration, whether it's legal or illegal, it has to stop. You cannot come into our country, impose your belief system, and force us to pay for your way of life.
That was James Fish back there, folks. But Speaker Johnson nailed it and brought it to the floor and told reporters bluntly, Republicans are putting Americans over politics, but the Dems are terrified of their AOC base and won't budge. Meanwhile, Trump's already ensured military pay via executive action because he's a leader who delivers, not whines. But for SNAP, that's leverage the Dems are using to hurt working class folks like us, the very people Trump fights for. And listen up, folks, because here's a hypocrisy alert. The same Dems who scream Trump's cruel slash SNAP funding by $200 billion in their budgets and turn a blind eye to fraud, letting illegals siphon benefits meant for American families. Secretary Rollins exposed it, as you all saw in last night's video. 21 blue states sued us just for asking for data to stop illegals from gaming the system. That's not compassion, that's corruption. But you all remember us having talked about Timothy Mellon, right? A true patriot and grandson of Treasury legend Andrew Mellon just stepped up with a massive $130 million donation to keep our troops paid during the shutdown, proving Republicans deliver real results for those who serve. But SNAP benefits for hardworking families? Crickets. Crickets from the Democrat donors. Where's the billionaire backer stepping up to feed the kids of the working class that they're always claiming to champion? They'll grandstand in court and sue to force funding, but when it comes to putting their own money where their mouths are, they're ghosts. Because talk is cheap and real leadership isn't their style.
I gotta say, on the point of the federal judge, I mean, if the federal judge can rule that the Trump administration reinstates food stamps, why can't she also rule that the Democrats need to reopen the government? Because I'm not just concerned about the 40 plus million Americans who are not gonna have food stamps. I am also concerned about the 12,000 FAA employees who are not getting paid, about the 2.2 million military members not getting paid, about the 2.5 billion in SBA loans that are not getting distributed. And the bottom line is the Republicans have voted 13 times to pass a clean CR, and the Democrats will not do it. And it's because Chuck Schumer thinks
but that's a
every day
argument. That's
is
a
getting
disingenuous.
better
It's not
for
that
him.
it's not just solely just the Democrats. In fact, there is reserve. You know that there's reserve that can be used to make sure that these SNAP benefits
there's
are
reserve for every single
and they
thing that we
remove it.
need to do.
But the reality
Democrats
is
just wanna
that this is an issue. So you're saying, do I have to make a choice between SNAP benefits or health care? Like, why do we have to make that choice in this big, beautiful America that we live in? It's not fair just to say it's a Democratic issue.
So
It's
let's have that
everyone's
debate
issue.
after we
But it's not
open up
just-
the government.
But it's not just a Democratic issue. That's a disingenuous argument. We should not be on any side in this issue. This is about people who won't be able to eat. 42 million Americans that can't eat.
So
Children
let's
who will not be able.
reopen
But it's not about
the
the
government.
Democrats. That's not a fair choice.
It is a fair choice. We would have that funding and funding for everything else if the Democrats were willing to vote. As Fetterman has even said, he's called out his own party.
I'll
Democrats
disagree.
are losing the biggest union who are tired of their dynamic.
So let me play.
My word, she's stupid. Now, the irony here burns hotter than a California wildfire under Newsom. These judges, unelected lifetime bureaucrats handpicked by Obama to push the progressive agenda, are ordering Trump to break the law by raiding $5 billion in contingency reserves for disasters, not Democrat shutdowns. Article 1 of the Constitution says Congress controls the purse strings, not some robe-wearing elitist in Providence. Remember how the left howled when Trump used emergency powers for the border wall? They called him a dictator, undermining democracy. They shrieked loud, but now they're cheering judges to force executive spending without appropriations. Fallacy much? That is the false equivalence of the century, folks. They love emergency powers when it suits their narrative, but cry foul on real crises like securing our sovereignty. And get this, Judge McConnell even thanked Trump in his ruling for highlighting the issue and then slapped on a deadline anyway. Patronizing much? It's like the deep state saying, good boy, now do what we say. But ladies and gentlemen, this just only exposes the left's biggest flaw. They hate checks and balances unless they're checking conservatives. They've judge shopped for years, suing over every Trump policy from travel bans to environmental rollbacks, turning courts into their personal veto pen. And this is hypocrisy on steroids. Biden's crew ignored court orders on student loans and eviction moratoriums, but Trump's supposed to just snap to attention here? No wonder all my socials are exploding with patriots calling this judicial tyranny. As one MAGA subscriber put it, judges think they're kings now. Spot on. And you can't make this stuff up, folks, but get this. If Trump complies, he's the king. But that's the left's trap that they want him to fall into. But he's way too smart for that. And here's the twisted genius of their plot and why it makes Trump more kingly than ever if he plays ball. The left knows Trump can't legally tap those funds without Congress. It's a violation that could land him and others in his administration in very hot water. But if he does it anyway, to feed 42 million Americans that the Democrats want to starve, many vets and working families we all know and love, well, boom, all of a sudden they've got him. And I can see it now in the headlines and the ex-post descriptions would read, you see, Trump's a monarch, bypassing the people's representatives. It's a lose-lose setup, pure Alinsky tactics to smear our president, yet in defying the gridlock and delivering aid, Trump would be the paternal leader a king claims to be, protecting his people from the wolves in Congress. Remember Louis XIV? I am the state. Trump complying would echo that. America first, screw the bureaucrats, but that's their fallacy. Ad hominem attacks to distract from their own failures. They've spent trillions on foreign wars and green fantasies, leaving us with $36+ trillion in debt, yet we're the heartless ones? Give me a freaking break. Polls already show Americans blaming Dems for this, not Trump. And why? Because we see through the charade. The left preaches no one No one goes hungry while blocking border security that floods the system with fraud. They virtue signal about the poor, but vote against school choice and tax cuts that lift families. And this latest SNAP stunt, just another ploy to prolong the pain, hoping Trump blinks first. And trust me, he won't.
He's brilliant. He's going to be working to make sure that individuals who got Social Security numbers in this country should be using them for the right things, and they shouldn't be on our benefit programs. You know, we have over 6,000 individuals that have been identified through their work already that have been on the terrorist watch list, that they are known criminals.
How does that happen, Madam Secretary? How does that happen?
It happens when you put a train wreck like Joe Biden in the White House, and it's going to be a lot of work to clean it up. But just in the last 4.5 years, we've had over 9 million people get Social Security numbers that are not U.S. citizens. So they may be people who have some sort of legal status, but a lot of them are illegals that were given a Social Security number in just the last 4.5 years that we're going to have to figure out if they should be here, if they are here legally under a program, and if they are here illegally, then they certainly shouldn't be using that Social Security number to be on our programs, and they should be removed or given the opportunity to go home on their own. That's the one thing President Trump would like, is everybody to be given the opportunity to go home if they would wish to.
Facts. Plus, just giving in to the Dems, their judges, and breaking the laws of our Constitution would be handing over funds to illegals. Granted, they have Social Security numbers thanks to Biden, but we all know the deal. The bottom line, stay strong, MAGA. Trump's winning this fight. And I feel extremely comfortable telling you all this because you're smart and we're all on the same page here. Don't let the CNN sob stories gaslight you. Trump's fighting for fiscal sanity, rooting out waste, like that $72 million a month in fraud and forcing Congress to do its job. If these judges' orders hold, and the appeals are coming, it'll cost us time and money, sure, but it'll expose the left's house of cards, a party that loves democracy until it loses, compassion until it's their wallet, and the rule of law until a black-robed ally twists it. As Republicans, conservatives, and just a party of common sense, we are the party of self-reliance, strong borders, and real results, not handouts laced with socialism. The same socialism that is proving to be an absolute and total failure that Mom Donnie is running on and Chuck Schumer refuses to endorse. But if the rich and wealthy tax the rich, eat the rich, refuse to pay, then who does that actually really hurt? Yeah. And if your government can't actually enforce it because it would be illegal and breaking the law, then how do all these people who voted for Zoran with their hands out and their mouths open and their bellies empty get what they want? Because tomorrow, folks, I need to make sure to include this in tomorrow's video, but even the governor of New York has come down and said that Zoran pretty much is, he's writing checks that his ass can't cash, basically. President Trump, if you're seeing or hearing this, hold the line, friend. We're with you 100%, right? Who's with me here, okay? America first means ending this shutdown on our terms. Clean bill, no amnesty riders. The hypocrisy, folks, is crystal clear. The fallacies have been debunked and the flaws in their caring facade laid bare. And it doesn't matter what color you are, I am, or whoever's running for office is, Barack. Let's make America great again by voting out the radicals and draining the swamp for good. Because, and as much as I hate to say it, Obama is right to some degree. He said our country and our politics are in a pretty dark place right now. And every day, this Democratic side of the aisle in Congress offers up a fresh batch of lawlessness and recklessness and mean-spiritedness and just plain craziness. Kamala says, we refuse to kneel before a tyrant, as she whores herself out for a paid-for, possibly AI-enhanced California Prop 50 rally crowd in Los Angeles, trying to steal more seats away from Republicans. But she, at the direct order of Barack Obama, managed to let their scheme slip. Because it has been brought to my attention that the Dems were planning on ending the shutdown right after the No Kings rally, but realized they could attempt to get more leverage out of it if they kept the rage going until after the New York City mayoral election. And so now their plot, as Kamala slipped up with her tongue and let the cat out of the bag, but this is what you get when you let a drunk on stage with an open mic. But the Dems think that they can generate enough TDS rage in New York to steal a Mamdani socialist win.
It looks like the shutdown is about to end. It looks like it's about to end in just a few days. And it's going to end without the Democrats getting any of the things they asked for. The things that they told you they were holding out for, the things they let SNAP lapse for, that they let people get furloughed for, that they let our military and our air traffic controllers and our federal workers not get paid for. They're not going to get any of them. So what the hell they hold out for, and why cave now? Well, because they believe that this is giving them an advantage in Tuesday's elections. They may be right. They may be right. People may not be as bright as I give them credit for, I guess. But I don't see how. I don't see how any reasonable, clear-thinking human being looks at the Democrat Party right now and says, yeah, they're not responsible for this. When clearly they're responsible for it. But the word on the street is they're going to keep this shutdown going until just after the election, Wednesday or Thursday. Then they're going to cave in, let the government reopen, because it was never about you. It was never about Obamacare. It was never about your health care. It was always about politics. Always. From day one. And anybody with half a brain knew that. These people are loathsome, they're disgusting, and they're shameful. I want you to watch this and let me know what you think in the comments.
First names, we have something in common there. When you start talking about what the Democrats are doing, this was never about policy. This was about Republican policy versus the Democrats' politics. First of all, they shut it down because the Democrats' base demanded them to do that. They've been chanting that all year long, shut it down, shut it down. Once they shut it down, they knew they were in a mess because they entered a fight that they had no end for victory. They didn't know what victory looked like. They shut it down just because of anger, because of because of their hatred towards President Trump. But then they said, well, we're going to open it back up after No Kings Day or No Kings Rally because, hey, listen, the base will be really upset if we do that before the rally, so let's open it up then. After they went to the rally, they realized that their base was only more dug in. So now what the Democrats are literally telling us this, they plan on open it back up probably Wednesday or Thursday after the election, after they elect a communist in New York to be the mayor, after the New Jersey's gubernatorial race, after Virginia's governor's race. They're going to come out. They're going to look for an exit ramp because they know they're losing. Shoot, even CNN's polls are showing that this isn't good for them. The American people have already been exposed to, Congresswoman Clark by saying that this is a leverage point for them. You had Chuck Schumer say every day is getting better for them. You had Senator Coons from Delaware goes out and says it's uncomfortable, but it's a leverage point. And even Bernie Sanders goes out and says they can't open it back up because they lose leverage. But they also know they need an exit ramp. So after the election, Kellyanne, they're going to come out, and at that point, they're going to go out there and rail that they're going to take the high road. They're going to try spinning it on President Trump and the Republicans. And after they get done talking their way out of, themselves, they're going to eventually open it up probably Thursday, I'd say midday.
And Senator, what does that look like for the Democrats who really decided to die on the hill of health care, extending Obamacare?
And that's just it. These Dems will all die on the hill, figuratively speaking. And come Thursday or later this week, we'll break it all down and analyze the facts and get to the bottom of it all and the truth. Thank you all for joining me again. I really do appreciate you. I can already tell you that tomorrow's pretty much going to be like today and yesterday, where I may only have enough time to be able to get one video out to you guys. And what I'm hoping to do is increase production and volume maybe next week. We have a very, very busy schedule ahead of us here, and I'm a one-man team, and I do all this by myself. So thank you in advance for being and bearing with me. Your support really means the world to me. Take care. God bless. And we'll be sure to pick this back up as soon as possible. I hope you all have a pleasant night.